TikTok. It's time to rock. It's the double banger weekend for Brad and Andrew. It's where you get us 2 days in a row. Isn't that fantastic? And then obviously the Sunday show, we have the Rock Professor, who's going by. When I drop that banner, you'll find out what his name is. So if you guys want to be really, really cool, try and work out what the reference is and add the reference or what you think it might be in the comments. But as usual, guys, it's my pleasure to be here with you on the Sunday show. The Rock Professor and Brad, the Backdoor Man.
Good to see everyone. Good to see everyone. How are you guys going? Good?
I'm good, brother. Yeah. I'm always good. Always good to see you guys.
Yep.
Likewise. Good to see you guys.
Yeah. It's all good. Yeah. I want to say good morning to John, D351. Morning, John. Thanks for your graphic stuff this week. Fantastic as ever. L&M Guitar Corner and Mark Tanner and Ellen. Good morning, Ellen. Hope we're good.
Awesome.
So, morning all. Thanks for joining.
Awesome. Good to see you guys. So, guys, look, we're streaming on a couple of platforms. So just give me a second. I've got, so we're streaming on our All About the Blues Facebook page. We're also streaming on our All Things Ericclapton Facebook group. Check us out there. If you guys haven't already seen Brad's Instagram account, there it is there. Easy peasy, Brad Cook Music. And here he is with his 164 followers, growing daily. There he is there, the Rock Professor, Simon Williams, 33. You like that one? You like that?
As opposed to Brad's 2,300. I think I'm lagging somewhat.
Who's counting? Who's counting? Content is king. Come on.
Slightly upsetting. Well, true. Well, yes, in that sense, then Brad's content is definitely king over mine.
Oh. Yeah, well, look, it's always good, isn't it, to show and share our social medias, because it has the cyclic effect, and you know, I like it. I think it's cool when you consider what's happening. It's nice to jump on Instagram and see some good stuff, some creative stuff, some really cool, awesome stuff. Simon even postings, even Simon, the Rock Professor, posting. You know, we like to give him a bit of grief about that, but he's getting pretty cool. So.
A lot of grief,
good on you, brother.
Deserved.
Yeah, well deserved. And look, I've got to say one other thing too. Extremely embarrassing. I did a full show with my mic camera. This camera here wasn't working. So if you guys know anything about podcasting, you have a mic. It goes to your interface unit, which goes through into your computer, and then you have all these default things for your for where it goes. And I did an update, and it defaulted back to the camera. So always check your settings when you update.
You nearly slipped up then, didn't you?
I'm just a working class guy, but I didn't. We did a good show yesterday. Besides that, it was nice to have Luca on. So if you guys haven't checked that out, please do. Jeepers, that's up to about 200 views, guys.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that's good.
Watching it yesterday.
Yeah, I have not been too busy online with Instagram and keeping up to date with what's happening on YouTube because I've been so busy, but I've got to get back on track. So once we finish tonight, I'll be delving in and responding to some comments and whatnot. So make sure we love to see your comments in the chat. So make sure you please give us your feedback. Keep it all positive, and that's what we want to see.
Yeah. I appreciate it, bro. Always appreciate it.
We said good morning to Teresa, and good morning to G Bushnoff. Good morning, G. How you doing? So awesome. Thanks for joining.
A few of the regulars in now.
Yeah, we're getting all the regulars in. Speaking of regulars, we've got someone joining us that's taken up the invitation, as you guys already know. Well, if you guys are regulars to the channel, we always offer, if you've been with us in the chat and you want to come on and hang out with the Rock Professor and Brad and I and talk about an album, we'll always have that opportunity, that door open for you. So we've got Crappy Luxury. He's waiting in the green room. He's finishing his beer, and he's going to be joining us in about 30 seconds. He's going to jump in. He's going to tell us a little bit about where he's come from, because as the Rock Professor says, everyone's got a story, and he's here to tell a little bit about that. And then we'll do a bit of an intro on the album, and then we'll go through it, guys. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Just quickly, guys, I just wanted to give a shout out to our good friend Warren. All the best, brother. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, mate. So, we hope to see you out of the hospitals and that, mate, and in our chat rooms again. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Warren. Get well soon, mate. Hope you're right. And good morning to Sonia. Good morning, Sonia. Hope you're good.
Yeah. A bit of other things too before we drop Crappy into the crap. We want to do a shout out to the Rolling Stones Tattoo You. That was the repackaged, remastered album was dropped early in the week. 1981. So how many years is that? 40 years?
Only 40, so.
Wow.
If you think Elvis Presley to tattoo you is only 25 years.
Wow.
There you are. 1956 to 1981 is 25 years, and we're 40 years beyond that.
We're going to get Foxy on. We're going to get him on for a show with us, and we're going to go through and we're going to talk about that album, guys, too.
Tattoo you, didn't we? Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. We're going to get him on. And also, we're really, really excited. We were talking about this guys in the green room. I know Brad is extremely excited. And if you if you know anything about this show,
extremely.
Things start happening to Brad when the name of the Beatles starts being discussed. Something happens to Brad. So and
we're keeping it clean. Get goosebumps.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So we're looking forward to seeing some big goosebumps on Brad at the end of next month when Peter Jackson does his documentary series on Disney Plus. If we haven't got subscriptions for that, we need to get them, don't we, guys?
Oh yeah.
Do you say Brad's doing his documentary series on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Oh, Peter Jackson is. So if you guys haven't got your subscriptions, you need to get that out. It's only about 15 New Zealand bucks for a month.
I've got one. It's fine. Yeah. So I'm good for that. Good with that. Good morning, Keith Campbell. Morning,
Awesome,
Keith. How you doing?
Good to see you.
That'd be good. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to drop Crappy Luxury in. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself. He's just going to be on his voice. He's got he just prefer to join us with his commentary. So that's fine. That's fantastic, guys. Here he is, all the way from Portland. Where's Portland? Oregon. And we know someone else from Portland, Oregon too. So here he is. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Crappy Luxury.
Hey everybody, this is Crappy here, and really I'm really glad to be on this channel, on this show tonight. It's 11:30 Saturday night here in Portland.
Holy cow!
So, but I'm always up late, no problem. I first saw this channel 3 or 4 months ago. I was just, looking for stuff, and I saw a thumbnail of Godfrey Townsend appearing on some show, and I've seen him before, and I really admire this guy. And so I thought, well, I'll check out this channel that he's going to be on. So I watched that show. It was just about the greatest guitar 2-hour show I'd ever seen on anybody's channel. And because he was not only talking about his story, but playing songs here and there, which are so accurate in the right notes and the chords and the sound. And I remember I asked him, "Can you do the very final ending chord of Live Cream Volume 2, Steppin' Out?" And he got that right. He goes, "Oh yeah, that one, yeah." And then he played that, just fantastic. It was just stunning. So that's what brought me into the show, and I've been watching all the episodes since. Except the Eddie Van Halen ones, which, if it's okay to say, I'm not really into Van Halen, So I watch all the blues ones, not the Van Halen shows, because I really have nothing I can say about that.
It's
crappy. Okay,
that
so
I too am banned from the Van Halen ones due to
I mean, I certainly recognize his role in the history of the guitar, and the amount of influence he's had is just extraordinary. But I've never had any interest in learning a Van Halen song. The music just doesn't connect with me, So okay, so my little story here. I'm originally from New York, Long Island, New York, and which is another reason I was interested in Godfrey Townsend, because he's from Queens. So I grew up, a 20-minute drive away from him, and we're about the same age. And I felt like, gee, and we've been playing about the same amount of time, but he's great, and I'm still, twiddling around there. So it's really impressive to watch him and hear him talk about all the people he's met and stuff. So I first heard, the first thing that I heard that would qualify in British blues would be Disraeli Gears. And that's when it came out. And I distinctly remember, so I was 12, okay? I was at my friend's house, and he says, "Hey, I just got this new record. Let's play it." And it's amazing how I remember this, but it made such a mark on me. And he says, I said, "What's it called?" And he showed me the album cover, and he says, "Yeah, this guy is the world's greatest guitarist." And my friend, who's 12, he said this to me. And I said, "Well, what's his name?" So I'm looking at the album cover, and said, "How could he be the world's greatest guitarist? That's just ridiculous. That's just stupid. He goes, "Well, he is." And then I listened to "Sunshine of Your Love," probably, and "Strange Brew," And when I heard "Sunshine of Your Love," it just absolutely. I know I was only 12, but it was just incredible. I mean, beyond anything, any sounds ever created. It was just remarkable.
Wow.
So I immediately got into Cream based on that. And my whole life, Cream has been my favorite band over everybody, even the Beatles. So the Beatles would be 1, Cream would be 2, but I would be open to changing that, All right. Or switching that. So when I was into Disraeli Gears, I eagerly wanted to find the other albums. Back then, it was very hard to find the early Cream albums. It took me a long time to find Fresh Cream.
Wow.
Long time. And then of course I got Wheels of Fire, and then when Live Volume 1, Live Volume 2 came out, that was, I think, 70 and 72, or 72, 73. And when I heard "Sunshine of Your Love" on Live Cream Volume 2, I absolutely went, it was just the most magnificent thing, just incredible, and that's probably my number one favorite song of everything, I think so, yeah. Yeah, so then listening to Cream got me into, because when I would read the liner notes, it says a song by, Robert Johnson, not Robert, well, or, Blind Joe Reynolds, or whoever the person was, who wrote I'm So Glad, Skip James. So I go, well, who are these people? Because I've never heard of them. So I would go looking, and there's no internet, so you have to search around, And so I would go looking for the people who these songs were the originals, and then reading all about them and finding all the backstories. And so I really got into all the history of the original blues guys into the British guys, and I think I have a head full of all this encyclopedic knowledge, which is absolutely useless. But up until tonight, I might be able to draw something out of that and contribute to tonight's show. Yeah. But after Clapton and Mayall, I certainly found out about the next album, A Hard Road, which I don't remember when I bought it, but I couldn't wait to get it. And then I was hooked. I had to get Mayall Bluesbreakers Crusade, the one with Mick Taylor, and just keep building up the records and all the British blues groups. Yeah. Awesome. So there you have it. And I started playing guitar when I was 19, I think. And that's carried all the way through today. Yeah. And presently, I only have one guitar now, which is for anybody who's into that. It's a Fender American Special Strat.
Wow.
Which looks like it's the same two-tone sunburst like the Layla Brownie. Okay.
Nice.
And there you have it. Yeah.
And it's got Texas specials. Comes standard with Texas specials.
It comes
is that
with
correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it's got 3 Texas specials. Yeah. So one last comment on the guitar. If there's one guitar I could buy, I would love. And this is off the topic, but the one I would love to buy, but it's just too expensive, would be the Robin Trower Stratocaster.
Yeah.
Because that's just the one I would love to get, but that's not going to happen. So, yeah, okay.
Cool. Just say hi to Christine Taylor and Helen Winter. Morning, both. And yes, somebody and the great Vanzini.
Awesome.
Also in Oregon, I do believe.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Hi, Great Vanzini. Hope you're doing good. Enjoying Great Vanzini's recent videos. Lots of cool playing in those. That's cool jazzy playing. So well done, Tim. Check those out if you haven't. It's
thank you, Crappy, for sharing us your experiences with getting into the electric blues. Especially from an American perspective, because that always fascinates me personally. And we've had Great Vanzini on the show, and he's discussed how he saw the Beatles live on television as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah.
During that whole I'm going to say epoch in rock and roll history. It was defining.
Yeah. I definitely remember watching the Ed Sullivan Show. I think it was January 1964, if I'm right. And everybody watched that. I mean, everybody. And that brought on the British invasion, and which was all the music that I grew up with. All these British bands coming over, just incredibly great. Dave Clark 5, Herman's Hermits, Rolling Stones, Yardbirds, the Kinks. I mean, it's just one after the other, and they're all fantastic. But
Cream can't be underestimated, can they? Especially Clapton's work in that band for for a lot of people, and it's it's interesting and really cool to hear that you're a 12-year-old being motivated by it, because we've discussed this album and this band many times on this show, and we just continue to get blown away by that album. I think we did live. I think the last Cream album we did was Live Cream, didn't we, guys? And yeah.
Well, I remember being, I guess, 12, 13, or 14. Cream were in New York, down playing at whatever club it was, and I really wanted to go. But I thought, I'm only 14. I mean, I can't get it. Go by myself. 14 years old, go to whatever club they were at. But so I didn't go and see them. But I guess I could have. But I just I chickened out.
Yeah. Well, 14's a bit. Probably, but
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's the right time to start.
That's fantastic. So we're going to get into the album that we're going to do, and it was actually we picked this album because we fast tracked it because anyone that shouts out to us and says, look, if you're ever going to do an album, we'll negotiate it and we'll bump any album that we've decided, especially for any guests. So happy to do that. But we're friends. We love Peter Green on this show. We love him. You know, he's heavily influential. He's up there with Clapton, isn't he? And it's interesting because you speak to a lot of British blues guys, and I know a couple of guys that will pick Peter Green over Clapton. You know, I can understand why, but I wouldn't. I consider them, you know, both giants. What about you, Simon? Do you get into that? Do you get into that division?
No, I don't get into that division. I don't like I don't get into the Stones or Beatles thing either. I don't really get. I mean, I take them as they are, really. You know, I mean, Clapton. You know, I think Clapton has a little more of the historic in what he. You know, I mean, his John Mayall's Bluesbreakers album is the historic album with the historic sound on it. Maybe a bit more than Peter Green's, but it doesn't detract from Green being a magnificent player and going on in Fleetwood Mac to do his own thing. You know, he certainly had his own sound, his own style of playing it, and didn't just copy Clapton. You know, which is fantastic. But I think, you know, that Clapton with the Les Paul and the Marshall is, you know, he pioneered that sound, and therefore there's probably, in historical sense, there's probably a little bit between them, but not in my. I don't feel that Clapton's a better player than Green, and I don't feel that Clapton has more to offer than Peter Green in any of those terms. You know, they're right up there for me, both magnificent players.
What about you, Crappy?
Well, Clapton's career is just extraordinary, and his ventures into other nod and blues songs are things Peter Green never ever did. You know, in the 80s period, he did some songs like Rock and Roll Heart and Golden Ring, and you know, just like really not really interesting songs. A lot of those 70s, 80s albums before Behind the Sun. A lot of those songs were just you know, and
I agree.
and there's a couple of them here and there that were really nice that I really liked from that period, like Black Summer Rain, for example, is really lovely. And but Peter Green was at that time he was out. He was not playing all through that 70s period. But the difference to me is Peter Green primary influence was Eric, no question about it. And but his interpretation of playing blues is so much more heartfelt or soulful. I don't know how you want to describe it, and affecting the emotion more than Eric's ever done to me, I think. Eric, you know, goes through you know, the song and it's phenomenal, but Peter's approach is it's just brutally beautiful and unbelievably soulful, and you really feel the blues coming from his playing and from his guts. Yeah.
Brad, before we get into the intro on the album, do you get into the dichotomy between Clapton and Green? Is that something you indulge yourself in?
Not necessarily. I see Clapton, you know, as Crappy was saying, that, you know, Clapton's had an extraordinary career, and he's forged a path as a solo artist and a powerhouse in his own right as an artist, more so than Peter Green ever did. But we know why Peter Green didn't, and I've never really tried to compare the two. I think they're both phenomenal guitar players, and in this era especially, I love Peter Green's playing. It's emotive. It brings tears to your eyes when he's playing from. You know, there's so much to his playing, but I feel the same way about Clapton, and I think Clapton just had there was a fire in his belly to keep pushing harder. So look, there's no better or worse for me. I see John Mayall as what's the best way to put this? Like the forefather of, he takes on a guitarist and then he lets them gives them wings to fly, so to speak. And he's done that. John Mayall's done that his whole career. So, all credit to John Mayall for that as well.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because in the research that I did for my introduction, so we all know how Peter, he'd been hanging around the Bluesbreakers for a long time, watching Clapton. In fact, he was bass playing, and it was watching Clapton that got him back into the guitar. But I didn't realize this. In between Clapton buggering off to Greece to go on this booze trip, which basically that's all it was, and then John Mayall saying, hey, look, we need a guitar player. He went through, according to Martin Clemens' biography, 6 players. He had 6 players before petergreen came in, which is interesting because I never picked up on that, because I assumed, like a lot of people, I think that, when Clapton left, Green came in. And then, Clapton came back again, and then they, told Peter to go away, and then Clapton left again to go and form Cream, and then Peter decided, well, he was going to string John Mayall along a little bit, which is interesting. I don't know how true that research is, but again, I can't find anything that discounts it. John Mayall was ringing him saying, hey, come and join my band. He said, I'll get back to you. Let me think about it. But secretly, apparently, he wanted to say, yeah. But, that Cockney London thing, Simon, of, I'm going to let you wait. I'm going to fish you along.
When somebody wants you, that's the negotiating period, isn't it?
I have that book by that author, and I don't recall that he had interim guitarists before he went permanent with Peter Green. I'm going to have to look that up again, because that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember who they were, Andrew?
No, it didn't say. No, it didn't. It didn't say, but it said that they'd gone through at least half a dozen guitar players. So, an interesting point. But I think one of the great things about John Mayall, though, is John Mayall had clearly, didn't he, the talent, and we're all aware, aren't we? When they went in to record this album, everybody was setting up, everybody was anticipating, God to walk through, and he didn't, and then walks this this scrawny curly-haired guy, and we're all famous with what's the words, where's Eric, and he said, he's gone, he's buggered off, he's got this other band. Oh, okay. So who have you got? We got this guy over here. And John Mayall apparently said, well, guess what? He's better than Eric.
Yeah, right. He said, no worries, this one's better, or something like that. Yeah.
Bold statement.
Definitely a bold statement.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? That's right, because that's what he told Mike Verney, wasn't it, in the studio? I've got somebody better than Clapton. But I suppose you've kind of got to say that, haven't you, in a way, otherwise, because everyone will be thinking, how are you going to replace Eric? Eric's left, and if you're gonna keep it going, you've got to say, I've got somebody better than that. No worries, I've got it covered, kind of thing. I also read, Andrew, funny enough, that in Green's early gigs, that people used to shout out, "Where's God?" Which is a bit harsh, isn't it? It's like that's a big act to follow, isn't it? Where's God? And he said, I could feel them listening for special phrases. They want to see how I compare with Eric. Makes my job tougher, but I think he passed the audition.
And that didn't last for too long, though, according to Martin Clemens in his book. It didn't, because it didn't take long for people to really appreciate that Peter Green was doing something a little bit different. And I think the audiences were a lot more sophisticated back then, and they were appreciating the differences. And certainly in a live situation, Peter sounds a little bit different. And that's probably a point that we could talk about on a future show, because there's a couple of albums that they've re-released with Peter playing live, and he sounds remarkably different from the tone on this album, which is, I suppose, understandable. But so I'm late to this album, guys. I'm late. I probably studied this album in my 20s. I wasn't listening to this album at all when I was a young guy. I came across it again through a couple of uncles, but I would have been in my mid-20s. What about you, Simon?
I came to it about a week ago. I can't say that in my memory. I might have heard it once or twice. I might have heard it at a friend's house, a friend of mine's house. I'm certain Gerald's got it, but I don't think I've ever. I have no memory. I don't have it, and I have no memory of sitting down ever and listening to it. Maybe I've heard a couple of tracks off it as Peter Green stuff, but
yep,
I have no memory of it. So, Frank, I'm coming at it new, as far as I remember.
What about you, Brad?
Well, for me, I came backwards into like Peter Green's career. I was, as you know, I'm pretty heavily into Gary Moore.
Correct.
So I went back and discovered Peter Green through my interest with Gary Moore when he did the Blues for Greenie record back in '95. So around the year 2000, 2001, I started to delve back into early Fleetwood Mac stuff with Peter Green. And obviously I adored his playing, because I could hear where Gary Moore was getting a lot of his influence from: the lespaul playing, the marshal, that style of playing, and those sweet, sweet notes that Peter Green can play, and the vibratos and the way he executes those blues licks like no one else. So I kind of fell in love with Peter Green later than I did. That's like I was big into Cream, Clapton, all that stuff before. I never really gave Peter Green a chance until I really discovered Gary Moore did that album Blues for Greenie. So I'm really grateful that, Gary Moore, for example, took the time and effort and energy to do that record, and the live performance he did, I had on video cassette. I think it was video cassette. And honestly, the songs were fantastic. So that's how I went backwards. I have to hear these songs in their original form. So, like, for example, on this record, which we'll get into as we go on, but songs like The Stumble and You Don't Love Me. I've heard The Supernatural. There's a few, I can't think of them now, but there was a few from this record that I'd heard Gary Moore perform. So thank you, Gary Moore.
Well, we've done Blues for Greenie, so if you guys
Yeah.
haven't seen that show or anything like that, go back on the channel and have a look, because Brad discusses at length that connection for him and Gary Moore. So yeah, we love Gary Moore too. We've done a couple of other albums with Gary Moore. So yeah, big part of this show. What about you, Crappy? You told us how you discovered Clapton. Share with us how you came across Peter Green, please.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember exactly when that would have been, but I was definitely buying the albums in my teenage years when they came out: Wheels of Fire and Goodbye, Disraeli Gears, and all kinds of other blues players. I'm sure I got the Mayall Bluesbreakers Beano album as soon as I could find one, because I heard that was where he came from before Cream. So
Yeah.
I must have searched around, and I probably had to find a record store that had a good British import section, because many of those albums just weren't available. Those British blues albums, you'd have to go to a place that had a lot of import albums. So those 3 Mayall albums, Crusade, Hard Road, and Beano, probably are the British import versions. And but by the time I was 19, I certainly had a Hard Road and a Beano for sure, because those were absolutely played thousands of times while I was trying to learn guitar, you know. So, but I can't recall. Probably by 19 or 20, I definitely had them. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Would have been exciting times. So, all right, guys, we'll get into this album. So Hard Road is the 3rd album recorded by John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers. But what's really interesting, I suppose, for us, it's the album hot after the one with Clapton, which, as the rock professor said, is a landmark album. You know, the Les Pauls, and you look behind Brad. Look, Brad's got a Les Paul. He's got Marshalls. I've got a Les Paul. I've got a Bluesbreaker. Simon's got it. You know, it's you know, we're just gagging for Les Pauls and Marshalls, and it goes back to this album, which is remarkable. And it's remarkable that we're still discussing and talking about this 50 odd years later. And look, here he is. We're gonna isolate him. So if you guys don't know what a Les Paul looks like, that's a Les Paul, a Gibson
nice.
Les Paul.
Yeah,
and that I got this in this color because I wanted it to be like the one that Gary Moore was playing, which obviously ultimately ended up being greeny. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you, when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, I had never heard of the guy, Les Paul, or the Les Paul, Mary Ford, who were popular recording artists in the 50s. You know, I just never heard of the guy. So when I started reading interviews about Clapton and he was talking about his Les Paul guitar, I didn't know what that was. So I thought, well, what is that, a Les Paul? Les Paul?
Yeah.
Les Paul, I mean, like French, Les Paul. I mean, I had no idea until finally I realized, oh, this was a guy who was a guitar player too, Les Paul. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's funny, isn't it, Crappy, that those things that when you see them written down, and you know, in those days, you wouldn't have heard anybody say it, would you?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've told a story on here famously that there's a journalist in the UK called David Hepworth who's at school, and the first he had sort of like the 2nd or 3rd Bob Dylan record, but him and his friends spent 6 months calling Bob Dylan Bob Dylan.
Sure.
Because they'd never heard anybody say his name until they heard it on the radio and realised that it wasn't Dylan, it was Dylan.
Well, I've been. This is not the same idea, but there's a town in England, Morecambe. Okay.
Yes, Morecambe.
And just from reading about English towns and stuff. So I have a British friend in London, and I said, Jai, I'd like to go there if I ever get to England. And she said, where? I said, I don't know how you say it. Morecambe. She goes, oh, Morecambe, or something like that. And I said, Morecambe. Oh, okay. I don't know how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Well, you see that's typical English. There's a lot of things you leave out letters. You know.
Yeah.
You know, of lots of names. So, yes, Morecambe. Yeah.
So what's really interesting about this album too, guys, and it's a common theme for some of these really landmark albums that we do on this show, is that it's recorded over 4 or 5 days over the end of October and the beginning of November. So that's a remarkable feat when you consider, you know, albums taking months, years and years and years to do, you know. So the fact that a lot of these guys we're recording these albums quickly, it's a testament to a lot of things. It's a testament to the engineering that they had for that gear, which I think Simon gets a little bit frowned upon, but the technology that they had was pretty adequate back then. And obviously you had the engineering that was really, really important behind the recording studios. They were keyed up and clear on what was going on in the studio, and we can talk a little bit about how this was. Is there a noise going on?
Brad's playing.
Sorry.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all right.
Sorry.
It's funny, isn't it? Even acoustically, it really picks up. That's what
I
Okay,
didn't
all
think
right.
I was just tinkering. I'm sorry. I'll time
Yeah,
out
I
for a
just-
second.
No, I just got to make sure because I'm paranoid about my my mic
Sound.
settings from yesterday's show, so I don't want anyone to hear any fans or anything like that going, or So,
Guilty.
yeah,
Guilty.
okay.
Guilty.
So that's all right, brother. What's really interesting about this album, though, is that the quick fire that let's get in. We're comfortable. We know what we're doing. They're basically recording a set, which is again something that they did with the first album with Clapton, didn't they? Well, the album with Clapton was basically a set that they did. Again, a
they
remarkable
played it live,
thing.
didn't they? Yeah, they played it live, practiced it, and then you go in the studio and record
Bang.
it. And is that the same with this one, Andrew? I mean, my assumption is that it probably is. Yeah.
There's a few overdubs, but a majority of it was, recorded live. And interestingly enough, too, they were sort of, from what I read, they were trying to work out whether or not they were going to mic the amps and the speakers like they did with Clapton. But Peter Green said, "Look, I'll do what you want." He wasn't quite as, I'm not going to use the word demanding, but he wasn't quite as firm as Clapton, because Clapton had an idea in his mind of what he wanted. Whereas Peter Green, and again, this is no disrespect, and I'm sorry for making these comparisons in my introduction, but Peter Green's playing wasn't that aggressiveness that Clapton had. So he was, he didn't mind, backing back that tone. And in fact, there's hardly any overdrive on this album at all compared to the Beno album.
No.
So
Peter Green,
I'm going
clearly, that was his sound, wasn't it? He had that kind of clear, much cleaner, much clearer sound.
Yeah. And we can talk about that on some of the songs. So that's my brief introduction. If you guys want to add to that before we go to the songs, Crappy, if you got something that you want to throw in, please do.
Yeah, just one comment on the previous chat. Man of the World by Peter Green, incredibly touching, soulful song. Eric's never done a song like that I can think of in his whole career. Just really from the guts, so sad and beautiful, so there's differences between the two guys without question. Yeah. But I can't say one's better than the other. So it's impossible. Yeah.
And also, I'll make the point about, in those days, unlike today, production was all about the sound you got before you recorded it. It was post-production. You couldn't do much in post-production. Once it was on tape, that was the sound you had, and that was what you had. Then you could do some mixing, you could do some changing one instrument against the other in terms of volume, but you couldn't. The sound was the sound, and you recorded the sound. Whereas now you record the sound. Brad, you can say more about this, but then you can reamp it, you can put whatever you like on it in terms of effects and stuff like that. So it's completely about face in terms of the way that they produced. And if you're constrained by that, then it's much easier to record in many ways, because you can go in the studio as a band, baffle everyone up in your little box and play together, and then record something, because it's very much as you're recording it live.
Yeah, I believe that many albums of that time were issued in stereo and also mono. And
but mainly,
you could buy either one or the other or both. Yeah.
Mainly in mono. Stereo wasn't a thing until '69. Even Sgt. Pepper's. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was released as a mono record, as the main release, and they did stereo as an afterthought. So it's only after that they start. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Very much so.
Yeah. Brad, have you got anything, brother, that you want to add to the intro before we get into the ranking of the tracks?
Look, I've pretty much added all I wanted to, just how I sort of fell into Peter Green's music and his playing, and this record in particular. I haven't listened to this record for a long time, so Thank you for picking this one, Andrew. It's been a pleasure to go through it again.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah. No, that's one of the great things that we love doing on this show. And in fact, we got Crappy, our guest host, to thank, because, it's always good for us to get someone on to share a little bit of information and some stories. So I appreciate the fact that Crappy wants to do that. So, guys, the first track, A Hard Road. So, I'm going to be honest. I have to be. It's really important that you guys understand where I'm coming from. So, if you guys are aware of the show, and we've discussed the Beno album at least 3 or 4 times, I'm not a fan of John Mayall's vocals, and that's okay. It's okay. It certainly is an interesting style, and it's one that you have to put into context of time, and I certainly have. But I'm going to tell you guys, the opening track, A Hard Road, has an excellent set of vocals by John Mayall. In fact, it's probably one of the best vocal performances I think that I've heard him sing in a long time, and it's one of the standouts on this track. It's interesting too that you've got the piano, which is in the front of the mix. So again, it's a really important track because John Mayall's saying, well, look, it's John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers. I'm here. I'm the keyboardist, so my instrument's going to get a big bite of the apple too, which is great, so that's always there in the mix. But then obviously you've got, that example of Peter Green's economic guitar solo, which comes in. It just comes in nicely in between that wonderful rhythm section. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about this rhythm section as we go through the songs. I think this is a great opening track. I've got a couple of other contenders that I would have opened the album with, but I understand why they would have done this with this song, because it's all about John Mayall for this song, for me anyway. I'm going to give this guy's a ranking of 9 out of 10. Rock Professor.
Okay, as I said, one of the things that struck me about this record was that quite often I felt that John Mayall, he doesn't do himself any favors in choosing the keys that he plays in, and I wondered if singing right at the top of your range actually is necessarily a good thing for getting a really good vocal. We've all got a range in which our voices are rich, and and then if you go up too high, in my case not very high, it gets all a bit squeaky and a bit kind of and I just wondered if one of the things that struck me was that almost every single song is in a different key. One of the things I got because I've said this on his, but one of the things I do is to get into them is I tend to kind of play along. I tend to sit down with my guitar and just kind of play with it. And one of the things that struck me is every single song, the first 3 songs are a D, C, and B flat. So they go down a tone each time, and I was struck that by the fact that in the key of D, that's right at the top of John Mayall's. I agree with you. He's got quite a thin, reedy voice, isn't he? But I think on some of the other tracks, it was better because he actually got more into what his actual vocal range was, and wasn't just right at the top of it. And that was slightly better. So the other thing I said is this is a waltz, isn't it? It's in 6/8 time, which is a bit more unusual. It's not a straight 4/4 thing, which I noticed almost not straight away. But I think that it's interesting, as you say, Andrew, that the piano is to the fore and not the guitar kind of thing, in the way that and it is not it's not John Mayall's Bluesbreakers featuring Ericclapton, and we talked about that thing about featuring a particular thing. This is not that. This is about John Mayall's Bluesbreakers and Peter Green being part of the band, and therefore he's not pushed. You know, he has a guitar solo on it, good guitar solo, but he's not pushed to the fore in the way that Clapton was on the on the Bluesbreakers record. It's 8 out of 10 from me. It's not a skip, but 8 out of 10.
No problem. Crappy.
Well, A Hard Road, the first track, introduces Peter Green to everybody. You know, I probably had never heard of him up until, on record, until I bought the album. I love the song. I agree with you, Andrew. That's some of Mayall's best singing. As a singer, I mean, he's really, how do you say it? You know, it's just not a, it's just not a pleasant voice to me. But he's been doing this for 60 years, and he loves what he's doing, and he's able to do it. So, I mean, what could be better, you know, for him? And he never hired a guest vocalist to be in the band. He was always the singer, you know. But his singing on this song is it's very good. Yeah.
Can I interrupt you? I'll just interrupt you guys with it, because I don't want to forget it. And it was a point that I thought of a couple of days ago when I was making some study on this. And this is why I love John Mayall. His voice, you go and listen to him on live recordings, and his voice is great on live recordings, on gigs. So that high voice that he, that he sings in, that's his gigging voice, and it works well, on those 67 live albums that came out with Peter Green. He sounds great. But he's not a vocalist that comes to the recording studio like Sammy Hagar and has a studio voice. You understand what I mean? So the voice that he comes to the studio with, and Brad might back me up here, so that voice that he sings in the studio is his gigging voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's my theory.
Yeah. The guitar break by Peter is very short, economical. It really gets right to the point, and I would give that song, as much as I'd like to say 10, I would give it a 9. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, and that's a song that all three of the Beano, Hard Road, and Crusade, I played those over and over. I mean, hundreds, thousands of times as I was learning in the beginning. Those three are like the Bible of how to play British blues, I think, particularly the Beano album. You copy that thing just endlessly, and Peter Green as well. So I love that song, and it's a 9. And I think it's a really good start to kick off the album. Yeah.
Brad?
Look, I'm not going to sort of elaborate too much on what everyone else has said. I agree with you, Wall. Crappy, you couldn't have put it any better. That these were pioneers of the British electric blues for me. And A Hard Road, I love when the piano comes in. It's got a really cool feel. The riff's fantastic. It's got a lot of swagger to it. Vocally, I have to agree with you all. It's probably one of John Mayall's best vocals I've heard on a recording, like on a record, for example. I love the guitar tone. The solo is short and sweet, but it's all class. Some very deep blues happening here, British electric blues, and I gave it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip.
Yeah, that's a Mayall written song, and I wonder, how much personal story is in the song. But his singing is really beautiful, really heartfelt. And in terms of his piano or keyboard playing, I've always, from when I first heard the Beano album, I think he plays blues piano beautifully. Very heartfelt, sad, bluesy piano playing. So I really enjoy that part of him.
Awesome. So the second song, guys, it's a short song. It's Over. What's really interesting about this song too is that it continues the John Mayall "I'm the Man of the Band" theme, because the guitar solo is played in unison with the harp. So I found that really, really interesting. There's a couple of other songs on here too, where we're featuring the harp, but I won't make a comment about the harp on this song. But it's a good shuffle, and I think this is one of the great things about John Mayall too, is that he can rock professor. He can play blues. This guy, and that's not a bad thing. We got to remember this is 67, 66. A lot of the band, a lot of the fans that were buying these albums, they were sophisticated listeners. They wanted to listen to rhythm and blues. This was some authenticity. This was some kind of elite club that these young people were joining, and they wanted to see that. They wanted to hear that. This song provides it. It gives them the golden key to that blues club. And I'm going to still give this a 9 out of 10. Rock Professor.
Good morning, Michael. Also, welcome.
Hey, Mike.
Late. I don't know. You've just finished a gig, Mike.
Yeah.
He did have a gig, didn't he? Tonight?
Singing Beatles songs.
Yeah, cool. Hope it went well. It's yeah. It is interesting that listening to it, you think, how come? Yeah, I was thinking, yes, absolutely. 3:30 a.m. in New York. Oh, thanks for jumping in, Michael. When you're awake. The first thing that is how far back the guitar is during the it's like almost in the distance, isn't it? It's odd that it's mixed so far back, but against particularly the harmonica playing. Seems to be, the harmonica playing is right up front, and the guitar playing the riff is right in back, in a way. As you say, Andrew, that dual thing with the harp and the guitar playing together a lot is clearly. I don't know if John Mayall's making a statement to whatever, or that's just how it figures out on these songs. But it would seem to be that and it struck me that the guitar and the harp work a bit like a horn section. It's a bit like a horn section thing, playing together in that kind of way. And A.T. Dunbar, excellent drums on it, and I like John McVie's bass playing as well, especially the steady single notes all the way through. It's kind of without changing it, keeping it really really settled down. It was really good. 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip.
Awesome. Crappy.
Yeah, it's one of the less important songs on the album, but I really enjoy it. I mean, I really love this album, just playing it all the way straight through. And even though there's 2 or 3 songs which are weaker than the primary, the main songs, the album just flows beautifully for me. I would give this like an 8.9 or a 9. It's not an essential Bluesbreakers catalog song.
Yep.
It fits the album very, very well. It's fun to play along with, and if you've heard it once or twice, then you're covered. Unless you're a total Mayall fan. Once or twice, you've got it. You can move on to something else. Yeah.
Awesome. Cheers, Alan. Thanks for joining us. Brad.
Yeah, well, for me, I've just noted pretty much similar to what you guys have done, and as we've sort of said in the past, the downside to going last is everyone's pretty much touched on all your notes. So, so for me, it's like I'm just going to highlight that the guitar and harmonica playing at the same lines together at times. It's really cool. Vocals are cool. I really like the organ. There's a really nice touch for that, and I like the upbeat vibe too. Across the board, cool harmonica playing. I give it an 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip.
Awesome. The third song, guys, is a cover by Willie Cobb. And what's really interesting about this is that it's Peter Green's first vocals. And I couldn't help but make the comparison to Ramblin', which was the last song on the Beano album,
Right.
where Clapton took the lead vocals. What's really interesting is that the third song in, you've got Peter singing, taking the vocals, which is interesting. So obviously there was some confidence in the live gigs with Peter's vocals. he had confidence, which I think is an interesting thing, because around the same time, for a long time, actually for a long time, it wasn't until the 70s where Clapton started getting some kind of seriousness and confidence about his vocals. So it's interesting and revealing for me, and again, a good observation by John Mayall to say, oh, well, look, my young guitar player is a great vocalist. We're going to give him a big bite of the apple. And he's got it third song in. Again, we've got a great harp there. It's no Parchment Farm harp, which isn't very good on the first. It's, so John Mayall's harp playing has gotten better in my ears. Solid vocal. It's a solid vocal from Peter. Clearly identifiable, which is great. If you listen to Rambling, well, well, is that Clapton or not? But this song, for me anyway, it's no mistake. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Rock Professor.
Yes, it's interesting that although Peter Green picked, I don't know if he picked it, but sings on it and stuff. It's the solo. There's not really a guitar solo on it. It's the harp solo that
Yep.
In the thing. So interestingly, and you have all those kind of bits where the bass and harp and the guitar are all playing the same thing over the drums, which is quite interesting. Pretty straightforward blues song. 8.5 out of 10 from me. Never a skip.
Cool. Crappy.
Yeah, I love this song. It's not a guitar song, but I remember playing along with it. I mean, I don't know how many times, just as a beginning when I was learning how to play. And terrific song, but it's not an essential in the Mayall catalog. But it's great to listen to. I could listen to it. I would definitely repeat it over and over again if I was listening to it. And yeah, it's very nice. I think 8.9, 8.8. Yeah.
Crappy. Great Vanzini wants to know, have you got a YouTube channel?
Well, okay, if it's okay to mention that, I didn't want to promote.
Of course.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Crappy Luxury. I've had it about 2 to 3 years, and the reason for that ridiculous name is the main topic on the channel. Well, it started off as the main topic was luxury watches, because I don't know how I got into that. There's an entire community of YouTubers just about luxury watches, $1,000, $100,000, and I just found that so absurd. So who would spend $10,000 on a watch? It's just nuts, Anyway, so I got into it very much so. So the reason I called it Crappy Luxury is, well, yeah, of course I'd like to buy all these things, but I can't afford, anything. So it's kind of crappy, So, but now I talk about other topics as well. Yeah, so Crappy Luxury channel. And if anyone from my channel is listening tonight, because I did talk about my appearance coming up here, please give this channel a like and a thumbs up, because this channel really deserves it. These are the first guys I've ever seen on YouTube who just really knowledgeably talk about this British blues era without any of the BS and egomaniacal rantings. It's really a great channel.
Appreciate that. That means a lot, Crappy. Thank you. And cool. If you want to send us a link to your channel, I'll make sure that we attach that to our channel here. We're all about sharing and promoting anybody that participates with us. And this is a good time for me to mention too, any subs to our channel automatically get subs back. So it's the same thing with our Instagram accounts too. Well, with my Instagram account, you sub to my Instagram account, you get an automatic sub back. So thank you for those nice words, Crappy. Okay, you're wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Crappy. That means a lot. We we enjoy doing this. We enjoy that, and we do it to just basically enlighten people with content that I think is relevant rather than just waffle. I think it's important that we.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of guitar channels on YouTube, but they just wander off on topics that just don't interest me at all. And you three guys or four guys, are the first people I've seen on YouTube who actually know the same kinds of things I do in the most minuscule minutia of details. Of what was Eric wearing in the studio on the Beano album. Okay. Well, I know what he was wearing because I saw the photos on the album, but nobody's going to know that. But I bet you guys do, So.
Well,
Beatles boots.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So it's really terrific stuff.
I think if we don't know it, we research it, which is probably part of the point there, Crappy, that we make sure we know about it because we're also at that point where we want people like yourself to come on and enlighten us a little bit more. So that's that's the whole point.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed every show that you've done that I've been watching from being in the chat column. And also, by the way, I can't see the chat column on my screen during tonight's show, but you got great fans in the chat column who really, you could tell they're really listening to the you guys chat. Yeah.
Thank you. We are proud of the people that join us. We're proud of it, and the Rock Professor also mentions too that we're also proud that we have women jump in and offer comments and supporting the channel. So thank you. Yeah, that's a great point. We're humbled by it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you, Crappy.
Okay.
Brad, don't run away. Where's his mic off? I haven't muted him.
I thought you muted me because you didn't want me to talk.
No. I don't think you've given us your score.
No, I haven't. I'm just looking at my notes here. Hang on. I got sidetracked because we were getting those lovely comments, so now all of a sudden I'm just lost. I don't know what to say. Don't leave. You don't love me. You don't love me. That's where we're up to. I love the song. Great feel. The band's playing great. Guitar playing's fantastic. I know there's not a lot on it, but there's what's there sounds great. I love the verb and the reverb on the song. Cool vocals, great BVs. I really enjoyed the BVs in this song, the harmonica, and the cool outro drumming. So yeah, that was my take on this song, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's never a skip.
Okay, guys, so we're up to the 4th track, and what's really, really cool about these British guys, and Clapton's done it. They love taking these black guys from America, some of their tunes and some of their riffs, and they just do something magical with it. And the song, the tune that we're talking about is called The Stumble. Now, if you guys haven't already checked out Freddie King's version, please do. Go and check out Freddie, because that's just fantastic. This version is absolutely amazing. Brad in the introduction mentioned Gary Moore, and Gary Moore just takes it. Who would have thought that this 2.5-minute tune could be so different, but be so attuned to our ears that we're not completely listening to something different? It's one of the great things about guitars, isn't it, guys? And we keep saying it and we keep hearing about it. We read it that they say it's all in the fingers. Well, of course it is. When you have a song like this, a tune like this, it is in the fingers. I just think the song is remarkable. It's the closest that we get to a Clapton Beano sound, which is good. I like that. They've obviously done something with the miking, or if Peter was playing with his Les Paul on an 8 or 9, and Brad will attest to this, the volume pots on a Les Paul are very, 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 the difference between an 8 and a 10 is remarkable on a Les Paul. So it always has been. So if he's cranked it up to a 10, there's certainly something going on. The research that I've done, guys, on this is that he's playing through a JTM 45 and he's going through a 12 before quad. So a little bit different to what Clapton had with the Bluesbreaker. So again, just an interesting little point on how the studio would have been set up. You got a cool rhythm section going on there. John McVie goes on to contribute to a lot of great British electric blues songs. And the good thing about a solo is that it has to be backed up by a solid rhythm section, and they do this really, really well. And guys, can you hear the piano in there? For years, I never heard the piano, but, you hear the piano. I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10, and it's never a skip. Rock Professor.
Yes, couldn't agree more. I think this is the first real classic on this album. I think that it showcases Peter Green brilliantly, absolutely, and he takes his chance, doesn't he? Grasps it with both hands, and as you say, slightly different tone. Although he does, I think this is his closest in tone and phrasing to Clapton on this record. In that way, because it's clearly a Freddie King instrumental in the way of Eric, but without quite the fiery aggression of Clapton, I don't think. But it's a fantastic play, and he's got a swing to him, Green. When he plays, that brings it right up there as a song. Now I can hear the piano, but I didn't spend years not hearing it, so I don't know. It's a great version of it, a really great version of it, and it's 10 out of 10 for me. One of the classics on this record. I think definitely
awesome.
Check it out. I was just going to say one more thing before. Sorry, Brad. I was going to say about that thing about tone. If you're just pretty much plugging directly a Les Paul into a Marshall, then that is the tone, isn't it? You haven't got a lot of pedals and things to change the tone, to make it, as you say, it's just turn the volume up, turn the volume down, turn the tone, and whatever the amps, you've got the amp set up, and so and in what's in here. So I think it's that's and it's interesting that going back to the Humble Pie thing we did last week about how much that tone is just you get the tone of a Les Paul into a Marshall, and that's what you've got, and it sounds fantastic, and there's not a lot of post-production, not a lot of pedals in front of it, stuff like that to alter it to what you want.
Yeah.
Crappy Luxury.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this song, "The Stumble," is a classic. It's required learning for anybody playing blues guitar, even if you can't play it well, like myself. It's required that you Hideaway from the Beano album and this one are absolute two essentials. Hideaway I can play fairly well. The Stumble I need a tutor or a how-to video because it's very sophisticated fretwork. It's a brilliant song. It's a 10++. I would think that it's a mainstay of John Mayall's concerts over the decades. I wouldn't doubt that his current guitarists at whatever era of his band would probably include that, in the shows. It's the first time I ever heard of Freddie King, excuse me. And it's like, who's Freddie King? Who is this guy? And no, it would have been Hideaway when I read the label, the liner notes. Freddie King. Well, who's that? And it's really true. I mean, I used to watch tons of TV in the 60s. I never heard of this guy. I never heard of him on the radio in New York City. And I never saw him on TV. So how does these guys in England, how do they know who he is? He's had virtually zero airplay in New York where I grew up. Nothing. All those guys that they took these songs from, it's just extraordinary. And if I never heard of him, most people never heard of them in the country, like Muddy Waters. Who's that? So I go look him up. So the benefit to the people say, well, the British guys, they took off all the black music and became millionaires. And even there's an interview with Buddy Guy saying that's not true at all, because we were, playing, Shetland circuit dives, making no money, struggling. And then these guys did our songs and talked about us. And then we got bigger performance halls and record sales and airplay. And it came right back to us. So it was just a magnificent, like, symbiosis of how that worked. So all these guys with the blues songs they covered, literally, I never heard of any of them. But when I read the liner notes, I go, okay, who's this guy? I got to find out, And Peter Green he just goes full steam on this song. His playing is beautiful. Everybody must hear this song if you want to understand early Bluesbreakers. It's a classic. And 50 years later or whatever, it holds up 100%. Hasn't diminished in its power or beauty at all. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thanks for that, Grubby. Look,
Yeah.
for me, the Stumble, I've always loved this one. There's some, even though it's a Freddie King song, it's very iconic. Peter Green playing to me, the way he executes it. Some great playing. The tone is just fantastic. The band's cooking. The drumming's great. The piano, I noted that as well. Look, I'm not going to touch on more of it than what you guys have already done, but I have to give it like a 20 out of 10. It's never a skip. Never a skip. I love watching, and I love watching all the people that are past and present that still play this song. It's a great tune. But I love the way Peter Green plays on this. Love it.
Crappy, I'm going to back you up on what you just said before, and it's remarkable for me to hear you tell us that story about how you didn't know these guys, and it took these British guys to be a gateway for you to go back and discover these other black guys. And it was the same with me too. Clapton, this is why we talk about Clapton and we revere him. One of the reasons why, and Keithrichards and Mick Jagger, because they're gateways back to Robert Johnson and Skip James and Muddy Waters, because as you correctly said, they wouldn't have had the income. The blues was dying in America. It was just going to turn into this lounge kind of thing, and these British guys came along and just did something with it. And gave it back, and here we are. We've got a show, the British Electric Blues Show, 50 years later. We've got our British guy giving us some authenticity, the rock professor, and hearing your personal experience about discovering Freddie King through these British guys is just amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a film clip on YouTube when the Stones first came to the U.S., probably '64. And Brian Jones is like a kid at a candy store. He's so enthusiastic. And the reporter, probably at New York City Airport, Idlewild, says to him, "So what are the things you're hoping to do while you're here?" And he goes, "Oh, I want to meet we want to meet Muddy Waters." And the reporter went, "Where's that?" Because he never heard of Muddy Waters either. I never did. No one ever did.
Yeah.
He had zero TV presence or radio play, magazines, nothing. All those guys.
And it's interesting that you should mention that, because there's another thing too. I think it's the same too, where a presenter is talking to Keithrichards and Mick Jagger, thinking that they're the leaders of the band. And at the time it was Brian Jones, and Brian Jones gets quite shitty and says, "Look, I think it's time for us to shut up and let's listen to Howlin' Wolf."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Exactly. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to listen to Mick and Keith. I want to listen to Howlin' Wolf. But thank you for jumping on and sharing with us that personal experience, because this is something that we talk about on our show, and and to have you give that that authenticity is remarkable.
Yeah, I would be sure that all the people I know, friends or just acquaintances, who are not into British blues or blues at all, would not know any of these names. Freddie King, they would know B.B. King because he was very famous.
Sure.
And he was on TV regularly, you know. But all the other guys, Albert King, Freddie King, Otis Rush, no one has heard of these guys. I'm sure that of people I know personally. Yeah. It's because they never got the TV coverage. Yeah.
Awesome. So people are agreeing with you. They're saying great comments. Jazz Thunder 50 saying great comments. Crappy. I think the British blues guys created a platform for Black American musicians. So, yeah, thank you for that. That's wonderful. Back to the tracks, guys. So another kind of love. Oh, what's another kind of love? I'm going to leave this up to the rock professor and Brad to determine or define what another kind of love is. But look, yes.
Thanks.
Are you having a play on Backdoor or what?
I'm just leaving it. I'm just saying.
Leave it. Leave it.
The only guitar that you can hear on this track. The only guitar you can hear on this track's on the solo. You got the nice brass. You got a nice brass thing that going on too, which is interesting, and we're going to talk about that probably a little bit more on some of the other songs. I don't mind the brass on this song, but again, you know, I mentioned it before, guys. You know, I do have a soft spot for John McVie. I think John McVie is a phenomenal bass player. Even the stuff that he was doing on Rumour's album with Fleetwood Mac, it's just some phenomenal bass playing. And obviously, he's just one of these guys, too, that just can get into the groove quickly. Never underestimate the power. And I think Brad was saying it yesterday on the 5150 show, how it's really important to have that foundation, whether you're recording from it or playing live from it, you've got to have it. And you've got to have something to fall back on. And this song, for me, just epitomizes that tight British electric rhythm section. I'm going to give this song a 9 out of 10. Rock professor.
Yes, and I'm sort of thinking back to the Bluesbreaker album, where, you know, there are a lot of different styles, a lot of the, you know, he doesn't stick to one thing, Mayall, does he?
No.
Yeah. I thought you had a whole sentence lined up then. yeah, that kind of eclecticism, and I think that this is one of those kind of eclectic pieces that he's come up with, one of his own songs. But you know, it's, as you say, that there's virtually no guitar in it. It is right at the back. You can just about hear it, but again, it's mixed way back. And my assumption is that you know, in those days, you couldn't have everything louder than everything else, and something had to be at the back. And on quite a few of these tracks, you know, if you want drums to be quite far up, one of the things it gives is the guitar. Clearly, they've made the guitar give to go to the back. So this turns into a sort of a sort of organ and sort of brass piece, really, doesn't it? And it's very eerie, kind of heavy, strangely dark sound to it. That is, you know, and whatever another kind of love is, it's a moody piece, you know, and sensitively produced. Great drumming from A.Z. Dunbar, I think, as well as a thing. And as you say, the guitar is really only apparent in the solo as a thing. It's a fiery solo from Green as well. You know, really puts something into it, puts a lot of soul into it, a lot of feel, so, which is really good. 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip.
Awesome. Crappy.
Yeah, I love this song. It's one of the key songs on the album. This is a phenomenal cut. It's definitely a different drummer, because I've never heard Mick Fleetwood play with such intensity. Okay, on this particular song, the drum is very strong. The drum playing, the bass playing by John McVie is very prominent in the audio. I mean, you can really hear that. Many of the songs you don't really hear McVie that much. This one, the bass is really there, and wow, he's really good. Okay, and the tone of the song, the moodiness is just fantastic. Okay, and I loved playing along with this song. Now, in terms of the topic, I would have bought this album, say, I don't know, 1970 or late 60s. I don't know exactly. And since that time, I've been wondering, what is that song about? Another Kind of Love. And I've never seen it discussed anywhere in a magazine or on someone's channel. But to me, it's like he's talking about a girl that's into another girl. She's into like a lesbian kind of love affair. Now, that would be really remarkable for something in the 60s to talk about that. But when you look at the lyrics, can I read some of the lyrics? Is that allowed?
Yeah, we do that often.
Oh, okay, great. So let me just read. It says here, I'm not going to sing it. Okay. Poor little baby, you've got your lover. She's a girl. Well, he wouldn't be talking to a guy by saying poor little baby. So he's talking to a woman. You've got a lover and she's a girl. I've got to say you lost your way. You're a woman, another kind of woman, another kind of love. And wow, I mean, and it goes on. But to me, this song is just great. And when you put on the headphones and turn the volume up, it absolutely, the bass, the drum, and it's got phenomenal horn section that really beautifully adds to it. It's impossible to sit in your chair and not be gyrating and jumping up and down, And the effect of the drum, the bass, and it's just stupendous. And it's one of the most moving songs on the album and in all of Mayall's career. And I just Googled this song. I listened to the record a few days ago, and I saw that Joe Bonamassa regularly includes this on his concert appearances now. And I don't follow Joe Bonamassa's career that much, but he really loves this song. You can see the way he's playing this. He really takes off on it. And fantastic song. So I suggest take a look at Joe Bonamassa's studio version or his live appearances playing that song. It's a 10 plus. I mean, it's when you really listen to it, it just physically moves you out of your chair. It's so strong and moody and bluesy. Beautiful song.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I don't know what it's about. So okay. Yeah.
Brad.
Hard to follow these descriptions. Okay, well, for me, look, I love that roomy sound. It's really spooky. I think it gives an element of spookiness to it. There's a great feel on the song. I especially love the organ tone in this, and the playing is great. It's very cool. The guitar playing, where there is it's blistering hot. I can really hear where Gary Moore draws a lot of influence from, especially in this playing. It's remarkable how little guitar playing there is in it, but how effective it is, and the solo really speaks to me. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, and never a skip.
Yeah, if I could say, there's two songs I can think of that I really, even after decades of listening, I don't know what the songs are about. One of them is this, and the other is on the Derek and the Dominoes live album, Roll It Over, which is a fantastically rock and roll song. But when you listen to the lyrics there, this is Bobby Whitlock's lyrics. He says, roll it over, let's take it from behind. Roll it over. Dog.
It's about
let's take it from behind, yeah. And I thought, what is this? God knows it ain't no crime.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll keep it family friendly, but I thought, what are they talking about? Okay. So on Bobby Whitlock's Facebook channel, which I'm on as one of 5,000 or 10,000 fans, I actually sent him a chat message. And I said, can you explain What does that mean? Roll it over, take it from behind. God knows it's not no crime. It's only love. Oh, it's only love. It ain't no crime. And he wrote back to me and he said, it's a what did he say? It's a clean, dirty song. That's what he said. It's a dirty, clean song, or it's a clean, dirty song. But I don't know, exactly what they were thinking when they wrote that. But anyway.
Welcome to the 60s. Free love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Rock and roll. The next, thank you, Crappy, for sharing that, because we talk about Bobby Whitlock. We're fans of Bobby Whitlock.
Oh, yeah.
We refer to his channel often. We did the rankings on this album recently, and
Right.
we stuck up for Bobby and his interpretation. But yeah, anyway, that's another story.
Right.
Hit the Highway. So I'm intrigued that you've mentioned a couple of songs that we've ranked from a guitar playing perspective. My note here is that this is one of the first songs that I actually jammed along to, because it's an easy 12-bar song. One of the great things about these albums, and Brad and the Rock Professor will agree, is that, there's always a couple of just good basic 12-bar songs there. And it's important, it's important that they do that. The second song's a little bit like that. And then we've got this song here, which is, Hit the Highway, key to the highway. It's that, that blues theme of the highway sending you somewhere, or, you're on it for a reason. Interesting guitar solo. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10, and it's never a skip. Rock Professor.
Yes, it's interesting. No drums and no bass on it. Just guitars and piano, acoustic guitar, electric guitar for the solo, and that barrel house piano thing. It's very I don't know, Albert Hammond's kind of Pete Johnson type thing, isn't it? Tinkly piano. It's that Mayall does very well, actually. It's actually pretty good. It's very good playing. I think it's I'd sort of forgotten, and only when you showcase it like this do you kind of think that's pretty good, actually. Pretty good. Yeah, and I think that this is one of the more successful things, I think, where that kind of eclectic Mayall sensibility cuts in, but actually is really good, and it's not just a band thing all the way through. I'm all about contrast and and doing things at different times on albums and stuff, and I think this is a 8.5 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. And I think it does, a really interesting thing at that juncture in this album. Different perspectives, different thing. You've had an instrumental, you've had a kind of deep, weird brass thing. Now you've got straightforward 12-bar blues, so bringing you back in track in many ways, but without bass and drums and stuff. So it gives it a different context and a different frame. Brad.
Awesome. No, Crappy.
Yeah.
Crappy.
Okay. Yeah. This is one of the less important, in my opinion, one of the less important tracks on the album. It's nice to listen to. I do love the piano work. When I first heard this, or when I listened to it again just a few days ago, it was similar to a Mayall song that he did with Clapton. He did a 2-track single. One side was called Bernard Jenkins, the other side called Lonely Place, I forgot what it was. But that song, Bernard Jenkins, is like a 1940s piano blues playing, which he does extremely well. And so that's kind of like a sister track to this one, I think. And it's great. It's enjoyable. It's not essential in the Mayall, lifetime catalog, but it fits very well onto the album, and it's very easy to listen to. And you listen to it. You could skip it, and it's okay, but you need to hear it a few times first, and then it's up to you. So, ranking, I'd give it 8.5.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Backdoor Man.
For me, it just sounds like a bit of a like it possibly would have been a fun jam, and they decided to record it. Whether it was, that's what it sounds like to me. That piano is great, especially the dual vocal. I don't know who's singing the second vocal in it, but I really enjoyed that, how they're singing together.
I
The
think
dual
it's Mayall
vocals.
double tracked, Brad.
Okay,
Double track Mayall.
It's not live. Okay, that's pretty cool. I enjoyed that, and it's got a cleanish sort of guitar sound, like on the lead, which I thought was really fitting and really cool. Look, I'm not going to sort of go on too much about it more than you guys already have. It's a song that after you have listened to, like Crappy said a few times, you could probably potentially skip it, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's in the context of the record, I enjoy it and I wouldn't skip it. But it was definitely not one of my favorites on the record, but it's still good. It's not bad,
Awesome. Another interesting title, gentlemen. Leaping Christine is number 7. Guys, where do I start with this? The rock professor's already mentioned it with track number 6 with the double track vocals. We've got double track vocals on this. You've got the harp, you've got the organ. It's just all over the place for me. It's just too much going on. I never liked it when I first heard it. It's one of, there's a couple of interesting songs on this album, and this is one of them. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10, and it's the end track of a side. And we love doing this, don't we, guys? Because the last song on a side could either be a dud or it's a killer. It's a killer track. But this is definitely a dud.
Yeah, it is very dense, and I think there probably is too much going on, really, isn't it? And in it, I think there's less could be thrown at it, like it's got brass, and so the drums get kind of pushed back in the mix because you've got all these other things going on. It's, for me, it's one saving grace is the organ, which reminded me of Jimmy Smith, great blues organ player, and I like that as a sound. I think that's really cool, and I think the second half of it with that very kind of that organ, basically organ playing in it, is enough to give it a 7.5 out of 10 from me. But I know what you mean. It's a bit unusually for Mike Fenn. It's a bit overproduced. There's a bit. I've got a load of stuff. Let's throw the kitchen sink at it and see what happens, kind of thing. And I think that I agree with you, Andrew. It doesn't quite work sound-wise, but I like the Jimmy Smith stuff. I think that's pretty cool myself. So 7.5 out of 10 for me. And I wouldn't skip it. Brad, that's very crappy. What am I doing?
Crappy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's not one of my favorite songs on the album. I agree that it's all over the place, and I think you hear it once or twice and you're covered. So I think the song probably was pretty good if you were in a small British club at the time.
Yep.
Like what those clubs were like, probably 200, 300 people. And that probably would have been a really good number to play live at a club. That would have been fun to hear. But on the record, it might be the least important or significant track. I think it's 7, 6.8, something like that, 6.5. It's I doubt he even plays that in any of his concerts. Yeah. So yeah, not an important song on the album.
I tend to agree with you guys. I enjoyed the little stabby accent things at the start, the harmonica, dual vocals, cool organ solo. It's, I did mention here, it took me a couple of listens to really soak it all in. So I get that there's a little bit going on, and I thought the ending was really cool of the song. And look, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Andrew?
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's a sometimes skip.
Yes. Look, if I'm in the context of listening to a record from start to finish, I'll let it go. But if I wanted to hear key songs on the album, I'd definitely skip it.
Do you know?
Awesome.
Do you know what the other
Yeah.
saving grace of it is? I've just suddenly remembered. It's only 2 minutes 25 long.
Yeah,
And I
good.
think one of the things we say about these songs is that they're, is there a song over three? Oh, Hard Road is that the only song over 3 minutes? No, Another Kind of Love is over 3 minutes, but yeah, pretty much they're in the twos, which is that I wouldn't necessarily skip it only because it's 2 minutes 25, and if it were 5 minutes, I probably would, but.
Yeah, well, after that disappointment of the last track on side one, we're flicking over. We've got side two, and we all know, we're all British electric blues fans. We know blues. We know Elmore James. We know his version of Dust My Broom, and this is Dust My Blues. It's a great song. It's a song that Fleetwood Mac have done right through their career with Peter Green. There's various versions of it available. I just think the song is exceptional. It's a remarkable piece of musicianship. You've got John Mayall playing slide guitar, which is fantastic. You've got a really good, crunch going on with that guitar tone. It's just fantastic. And I think the reason why we've got that crunch going on, or that exceptional bit of guitar playing, is because Mayall's playing, I'd like to think of my mind. Sorry. Oh, Lord. Peter's playing face to face with another guitar player. And I think that's what, for me, transcends into the song, that he's, whether or not that actually happened, I don't know, but I'm going to stick with that. It's a remarkable piece of music. I'm going to give this 10 out of 10, never a skip, and certainly mandatory listening for anyone that wants to get into what John Mayall's all about. Rock Professor.
Yeah, and of course, later covered by Peter Green with Fleetwood Mac, of course. Really with Danny Cohen, and they did a great version.
Sure,
of it as well.
I'm sure I said that.
Sorry, Josh. Did you? No, you didn't say that at all. I don't remember you saying that at all.
Okay.
I don't remember you saying that at all. Really. But you are right. Mayall's 5-string bottleneck, adding country blues, and Peter Green, great guitar solo, great guitar playing, and those driving rhythm guitar as well. Really make this one of the standout tracks on this album. 10 out of 10. Never a skip. An absolute classic. Which is why they did it more than once. Crappy.
Yeah, well, certainly a famous song. Everybody, has to learn Elmore James style or be exposed to it if they're playing blues. This might have been the very first time people in America, certainly myself, ever heard of the Elmore James style of music. It was never on the radio ever. I don't recall. You guys might think of something, but I can't think of a song that was pure Elmore James, like Dust My Broom, that was done by a previous British album, that appeared on a previous British album. So this might have really introduced that style and Elmore James to the audience, and great song to play along with. And it's terrific. It's not the most important track on the album, but it's terrific. So it's a solid 9.0. And you can definitely play it over and over again.
Yep.
Well, I mean, for me, this is it's a fantastic song. Some of the notes I'm not going to touch on too heavily on the things you guys have touched on. I have to agree. There's some wonderful slide playing. I really think the vocals are great. The guitar tone, very raunchy, and great solo. And I love the outro guitar part. And I gave it a 10 out of 10. Never a skip. Never a skip.
Yeah, so I'll go 9.0, but I'm open to bringing it higher to a 10. I have to listen to it again. Okay.
I think it's a
Andrew.
great version of it, and I think it does a fantastic opening to side 2. And I agree with you, Crappy. It is interesting that that probably introduced Elmore James to a lot of people. I can't remember anybody else necessarily doing it before him. No, he must have done it before him.
Yeah, well, if that didn't, certainly the Rolling Stones were talking about Elmore a couple of years beforehand. Gets us to number 2, which is I'm going to quote the rock professor here because he mentioned a couple of songs that are. He said that Leaping with Christine's only 2 minutes 25 long. Well, thank God the next song's only 1 minute 138 because
yes.
I don't know what it's about. I've got no idea. I'm not even going to pretend to try and work it out. It's a bad mistake. It's just it shouldn't be on the record. I don't know why it's there. And unless it was some kind of reverb tank experiment, or something. There was some, I don't know, or someone lost a bet and they had to put that on there. Maybe, yeah. Who knows what bands do, Dreen? Look, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10. I'm just going to give it a 2 out of 10. Rock professor.
2. Wow.
2, yeah. It's I mean, I agree with I agree with you entirely about this. It's like, who thought this was a good idea? My only thought was that it was some, because he does this, Mayall, doesn't he? He has to have this kind of like this weird experimental thing that clearly he thinks is. I don't know whether it's an exercise in or an experiment in that kind of weird kind of wailing that Mayall, Vernon, and Dudgeon do. Yes, these are culprits. Moaning in the background. He's a kind of with the harmonica.
I don't even know who's moaning in the background. So the fact that you found out who's moaning.
Apparently, Mayall, John Mayall, Mike Vernon, and Gus Dudgeon. These are the culprits.
Well,
ladies and
well
gentlemen.
Well done.
Not that I think they should be held up for it. Well, be called out for it, but I held up. But as I said, my only thing about it was that he was going for some kind of sort of weird, authentic kind of just with the harmonica kind of so like field singing kind of ethereal kind of thing. It seems to be in this, we've discussed, I can't remember the track on the Bluesbreakers album, but they had the one I gave about 0 to, and this is right up there in things. I don't think I'm not giving it anything, to be honest. I'm giving it nothing. I feel it's got no real worth at all. I don't know why it's on there. I don't know why they bothered to put it on there, to be honest. I think it's just a bit.
Yep.
A thing.
Crappy.
Wow, a 2 and a not even a 0. A non-score. A non-score score. That's amazing. Yeah, I kind of agree. It's the least significant track on the entire album. It is skippable. Play it once and you're good to go. I think it's a
play the first half and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's a harmonica performance. Mayall, the sound is kind of like chain gang field workers in the 30s, 20s. Those guys digging ditches and picking cotton and out in the 95-degree sun and wailing, moaning kind of tone to it. But it really, it's. I'm going to give it I hate to say 2 because that's really cruel, but it's not an important song in the Mayall catalog, and on the album it's 3 or a 4. That's all. In fact, if someone's never heard the album, if they want to play the CD and then just skip the track completely, they're not going to miss anything.
No.
Yeah.
No, they really are.
But I would say play the whole track anyway. Yeah. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm not going to waste any more time on it. I give it 2 out of 10.
2.
It doesn't deserve much more time than we've already given it. So let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Crappy. Is it? Can I ask a question? The album with the next album with, I think has Mick Taylor on it. Has that got a track like this on it as well?
Wow, I haven't played that in a few years.
Okay,
I
no
can't
worries.
remember. I can't remember.
I don't think Crusade's got anything like. I can't remember either. I know I listened to it about 6 months ago, but when we go and do that album, and we'll come to it.
Yeah.
Reigned in his avant-garde self.
Yeah. By the way, is that the first 2 that you've given, Andrew, since you've been on the show?
Yes.
Right. And Simon, is that the first non-score?
It is the
you've
first
given?
non-score I've given. Yeah.
Well, there's a distinction for John Mayall. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
goes from 10 to 2 to 0.
That's right. Amazing. All right.
I always call it as we see it. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't really see why.
Parchment Farm is better. And
oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I only gave that about 4, didn't I?
Yeah. But look, I get what you're saying, Crappy. It's a double tracked harp thing. I get that, but it doesn't have the authenticity for me that at least Parchment Farm tries.
Parchment Farm is a really important song for harmonica players, I guess. But as a blues piece, it's a standard, and that's a really good song to listen to. Yeah, there's no comparison.
Sorry to anyone who likes it, by the way.
Well, Great Vanzini always liked it.
Yes, well done, Great Vanzini. Stick up for it. Oh,
I think he might be just growling us up. Maybe I don't know.
Well, you may just like it. You see, that's the way it is.
So we're up to the third song, which is a Peter Green song called "The Same Way." A good example of British electric blues, in my opinion. It's a fantastic song. It's never a skip. I think one of the great things about this song, obviously, it's Peter's vocals. I love Peter Green's vocals, and the contrast between Peter's vocals and Mayall's on this album is one of the highlights. I'd be very interested to see what my other co-hosts say about this. I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10, but it's never a skip. It's never a skip, Rock Professor.
No, I agree. I think it is, his vocals, and they're not mixed right up, are really good. They starting to get confidence in his singing. I don't know how much he's done before this, but and starting to be the voice that you recognise into as in Fleetwood Mac. I think it's that kind of start-stop thing, and uses the 12 bars in a slightly unusual way, 3 chords round the other way, and it's a great solo, tightly focused, good sound to it and stuff. So again, I agree. After 8.5 out of 10, and I think he's starting to find his voice, Peter, and songwriting and sound and singing, which is really cool. So yes, 8.5 out of 10 for me, and never a skip.
Crappy.
Yeah, I love this song. It's a great beat. It's terrific to play along with. I remember playing along with this over and over again when I was beginning, and the guitar work is really nice. It's very simple, and it's easy to learn, I think. And the song is it's a simple song, but it's really I just really enjoy it. And Peter Green's voice is just a beautiful singing voice from the very beginning, and he surpassed. I could be wrong, but I think his singing voice might be surpasses certainly any English or British blues singer that I can think of off the hand. I mean, there's all kinds of different styles: Chris Farlowe or Rory Gallagher or Mick Jagger, but Peter Green's voice was really just beautiful, and that came right away from this album. He started right off with that voice,
Yep.
So I gave this a 10. I really love the song. or certainly a 9.8. And yeah, every time I would play this album, I would want to play the song. I would include it. Yeah, never a skip.
Well, for me, it's I think I discovered this song through Gary Moore, and I love the song. There's a purity to the tone and the way it's performed. The band's really tight. I really enjoyed the vocals. I think it's great vocally. Peter Green's vocals are great, and the guitar work's beautiful. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 as well. Never a skip.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
I'm going to go to a 10.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll need to go back and renegotiate that song. All right, guys. So we're up to track 4. So again, this is a Peter Green original, and some songs, some instrumentals deserve its status in the pantheon of electric guitar work, and this is one of the tracks. I love saying this. If there's one track that makes an album vital, it's certainly this track on this album. It's everything that I think a young guitar player back in '67, if they were anticipating listening to something that came close to the Beano album, they were going to get it with this. It's just a remarkable. It's an epic piece. It's one of these songs that, in my mind, just goes on, and I don't know how songs do that, but for me, it just seems like I'm it just takes up space and time in my head. I did a bit of research on this song, guys, because we all talk about Peter Green's out of phase tone, and there's no out of phase tone on this album. One article I found, his Les Paul only had the bridge pickup in when he was recording this album, so that backs up, but clearly there's no out of phase tone that he becomes really associated with, certainly with Fleetwood Mac. He's playing, like I said, a JTM 45 with the 4x12 cabinet on this. That's sustain. And remember, we talk about Micheal. He's been on the show with us guys a couple of times, and he talks about how Clapton hits an E chord, or that E note, and then just gets that wonderful sustain. He was doing that with Cream during that Cream reunion. There's a couple of songs there. That intro sustain, a D chord, apparently. It's 4 notes from a D chord. It's remarkable. You can hear the pick scrapes. Go and listen to it. It's mandatory to listen to it on headphones. I can't. I'm going to Brad score this. This is 100 out of 10. It's never a skip, and it's worth the price of the album.
Good. Yes, couldn't agree more. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that it's that single sustained note. It's such a beautiful and elegant thing. It's and I can't think of another. Probably some antecedent somewhere, but it's a beautiful thing, and and clearly this style, Peter Green takes on classically in Black Magic Woman, which has a similar kind of rumba feel to it as this. I agree with Andrew. You've got all the things. Apparently A.G. Dunbar plays the timpani, mallets, muting his drums the way that Mick Fleetwood did on Albatross and things. So there's a sort of the sound, even the drumming has a sort of has a line into what he did next. I think it's a beautiful thing, and Mayall picks out a nice counter melody on the organ further back. It's a yes, absolutely 20 out of 10, never a skip, and is probably, I would say, the standout track on this album. I think I'd say that it's probably as you say, Andrew, that if an album ever had one song that was worth it, this is it. You know. So yeah, 20 out of 10 from me. Never a skip.
Well done.
Crappy.
Yeah, this is the song of the album. It makes the album into the epic category. Andrew, your comment, if you only need to buy the album just for the one song. Everything else is a bonus. It's that great. It's the ranking. It's 100 plus 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 out of 10. It's one of the classics of the whole '60s era. I don't think many people have heard it unless they're blues aficionados. It's not. It was never something on the radio stations in New York. I mean,
Correct.
in America, never.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, most people don't know the name Peter Green, really. And I have to tell you, all through my teenage and 20s, um, certainly up until college age, uh, Fleetwood Mac had almost next to none radio airplay. It was a very underground kind of FM rock band, and I never met anybody who talked about Fleetwood Mac in the 69, 70, 71, 72 period. Never. I mean, I saw their albums in the record stores, but it never occurred to me to buy them. And yeah, but this song is epic. It would be wonderful if Ericclapton would play this in a concert, or this is a song that Leslie West could have played. I always thought he could churn out that tone, and the speed would be his style. And beautiful song, and it's just a required listening. You could put this on replay and just play it all day. If you're in your car, just push a replay and just play that one track for the hour drive you're on. It's that good. Yeah. So
wow.
It's epic. Yeah.
Brad.
Well, I can't really sort of follow you guys much more than say, look, I describe this as spooky, verby guitar brilliance.
Yep.
Wonderful feel. Some wonderful playing by the band as well. Some really nice percussive work. The bass, the organ, the drums, but brilliant guitar work, and 100 out of 10, never a skip.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think the fact that you mentioned Gary Moore, and we're going to probably be talking about him, a lot more. His version of this is just remarkable, and
Yes.
go and check out Gary Moore's version and watch him play it even better. It's just just absolutely in the pocket, and a reverent piece of guitar work that harks back to Peter Green. I love it. It's just completely different from what Clapton did on the Beano album, isn't it? It's just on Beano, Clapton's young. There's this aggressive style, and that's why we love it. He's aggressive, he's punchy, but on this, Peter Green is he's delicate, thoughtful. He's remarkable piece of work. Anyway, sorry, gentlemen, we've already scored it, so sorry to talk about it again. Next song, guys, is Top of the Hill. Nice, cool little song. Groovy solo going on. We've reached the high point with a couple of songs, then we've come back down. The rock professor likes to talk about that, contrasts, the balance between song placements. They're getting it pretty well right with this album. I wouldn't situate or change a lot of the song rankings. Sorry, the song tracks, locations, sequencing or whatever. Just a good Bluesbreaker song. Nothing special for me here, guys. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Rock Professor. Laid back groove.
Yeah, it's featuring that Mayall's 5-string guitar, which brings kind of relaxed shuffle, as you say. He's also got the tinkling piano back to the tinkling piano.
Man, you've been doing some research. I don't know that he's play. Yeah, I don't know anything. So he's playing a five string open G before
five-string open G. Yeah.
Wow.
Before Keith.
Oh, wow.
Let's not get into that argument. But I don't know whether it's tuned to open G or not. But yeah, apparently it's a 5-string. But easier done while keeping time with the tom-toms and stuff. It's a really tasteful solo. You know, it's just about, and again, that Peter Green thing about what you leave out is as important as what you play. You know, not, and I think that you know, it's a pretty tasteful song. I'll give it 8.5 out of 10. Not a skip. You know, cool, crappy.
Yeah, it's a pleasing little song. It's worth listening to. If I was playing the whole CD, I certainly play it straight through. I'd listen to that. It's not a required listening in the entire Mayall, 60-year catalog. It's very nice, and but it's not essential after you've heard it once or twice. So I'd give it like an 8. Yeah, and it's quite nice, but it's not. It's a song that I don't remember. I'd have to actually. Well, I have to listen to it again, that kind of song to remember what it was. So, yeah. And it's, on the positioning of the songs on the album, I've always felt that the second side just flows beautifully on the LP, the second side, and all the way through, and especially the same way, just like beautifully, perfectly flows into the next cut, the Supernatural. That's just a personal thing. When I hear that one, I automatically, the Supernatural just follows it just perfectly. And the closest I can think of in that kind of situation is on the Layla album. Right after Layla, there's Thorn Tree in the Garden, and it just flows so beautifully into that next song. It's that same feeling I get on this one. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's hard to follow all you guys, and this is one reason why I don't like going last. But I don't want to repeat what everyone's sort of saying. But
we've got to do it, brother. Sorry.
I know at some point we got to do it. Can't always be first or second. Look, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. I've put here one thing I wanted to note. I thought there was a lot of classy playing in this song as well. Great little sing-along song and a jam song as well. 8 out of 10 for me. Never a skiff. Really enjoyed it. It's in the context of the record, it fits really well too. Exactly what you're saying there, Crappy Luxury. Andrew.
Interesting. Okay, guys. So the next track, I spoke to, and we all know this guy. He's been on a couple of shows with us, Carl. I caught up with him and we spent a bit of time talking about a few bits and pieces. And I told him that we're doing this album. And Carl is a freaking Peter Green nut. Loves Peter Green. And Carl will pick Peter Green over Clapton. But I'm working on him. I'm working on it. So just. Give me time. But we were talking about this album, sharing some ideas, and I'm going to pinch a couple of things that he said to me because Carl knows a lot of stuff. He's picked up a lot of stuff over the years. He's been an avid collector and he's been listening to this stuff for a long, long time. And I don't know anything about John Armand or Alan Skidmore, the horn players on this album. And apparently they were pretty good. They were, good, solid session horn players in England at the time. And we were talking about a couple of songs. And in particular, Carl said to me, and I went and listened to the song twice after Carl's advice. So Carl said the bad thing about this song is the horns, and I didn't pay much attention to the horns. I kind of accepted the horns, if you know what I mean. But I'm going to stick up with Carl and say I think the song would be better without the horns. But I go back to what the rock professor said earlier. Mayall loves that eclectic style. And horns were starting to become a in vogue instrument. So I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. I'm going to give the song an 8 out of 10. Nice solo from Pete. Nothing fiery going on there. It's just a solid, delicate piece of petergreen playing. But I'm still going to keep it at an 8. Rock professor.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a I wrote down it's in the key of F. It's another waltz, 6/8 time, 3/4. Slow blues, tasty guitar sound and playing and sound, and excellent singing. I too thought that the brass was a bit overdone. I do. I think it could have been quite easily not had the brass on it and probably be better. The brass clutters it up a bit. I wasn't particularly like sort of infuriated by the brass, but sometimes you think, the old classic less is more, isn't it? And I think I maybe wouldn't have had them on there. But in a sense, I could see why you'd have them on there, because it gives it another texture, doesn't it? I don't think if we had we haven't had just having a quick look back to see if no, I don't think we've had any horns on this side at all yet. Possibly we have on one, but so I can see why they probably put horns on this, because it makes a contrast. As you get into the album, you want instrumental contrast, musical contrast. So I can see why you would have put it on. But as I say, I don't think I would have done. But tasty song, tasty playing, slow blues, 8 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Right, it's good, but not great, and could do without the horns. Crappy.
Yeah, one of my favorites. Supernatural, of course, is 100 out of 10. This one, it's a 10 for me.
Wow.
It's an important song in the blues catalog. Everybody should certainly know this song. Clapton used to play this in his From the Cradle tour. He played this in every concert, and he did a beautiful job, very close to the Freddie King version. And I love the Mayall version on this song. I love the guitar solo. The horn section. Hey, I enjoy it. To me, it completely works. It's never a skip, or as they say on this channel, never a skip. And it's great. Is it Peter Green's #1 top 5 list? No, but it's definitely important to listen to, and I really enjoy it. I would never skip it. Yeah.
Crappy, I have to back you up here. It's one of my favorites on the album. Probably, it's right up there for me. I think the guitar playing is fantastic. Look, the guitar solo gives me goosebumps. The tone, the space, the flavor of his playing, it's just timeless. I think he was a remarkable player, and definitely this is one of the highlights on the record for me. I've kind of the orchestrated parts, the horns and that, have never really sort of jumped out at me, to be honest with you. But now I'm going to go back and listen to it and listen to my co-hosts, what they're sort of saying there, and it'll probably now be more apparent to me. But which is the wonderful thing about these shows, the way we do them. Everyone's little interpretation is a little bit different of the song. But look, I have to give it a 10 out of 10. It's never a skip for me.
Oh, that's interesting. So we're up to the last track, guys. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so what's really interesting about the last track, from the research that I've done, no petergreen. No petergreen. You've just got John Mayall on vocals. Does a very, very good job. I mentioned on the opening track that his vocals, on the opening track are remarkable. He closes the album with a great, in my opinion, a great vocal. I have to be careful what I say here. Look, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's nothing remarkable. It's a solid track. What else can I say? Well, I'm just trying to read my notes here. The rhythm section, nice rhythm section. Yeah, I think that's because I couldn't find anything else to write, guys. Sorry to be fair. Look, 8 out of 10. Not a standout Mayall song for me. Rock Professor.
No, funny enough, I kind of agree with you about it. It's apparently John Mayall plays a 9-string guitar on it. Apparently, he got a 9-string guitar.
Really?
I just apparently he had basically it's I don't know he had a Gibson, an old Gibson, and he started out he had a 9-string guitar, obviously probably a 12-string without the top 2 strings, but apparently he's playing it on this, which is as you say, no petergreen, which is I don't quite know why. It's some foreshadowing of his venture into self-reliance and not to rely too much on posh guitar players, to those prima donnas of the 6 strings.
Nah.
Apparently, the drummer Keith Hartley is the only other musician. Hartley band, famous for
Chieftain.
Keith Hartley playing at Woodstock, and but not signing the release so they could appear in the film. So correct. Nobody ever remembers the Keith Hartley band.
And we're going to be doing that album next year.
Oh, Woodstock.
No, Chieftain.
Oh, Chieftain. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Great stuff. So again, 8 out of 10 for me. I didn't have much to, it's just a kind of sort of, just kind of slides gently to the end, doesn't it? Kind of thing. I think.
Sorry, Half-Breed. Half-Breed is the album we're going to do, not Chieftain. Okay. Sorry.
Half-Breed. Okay, cool. That's all right. That's all right in a minute. So yes, 8 out of 10 from me. Not a skip, but I think it's, if I may dare to use the phrase, fairly anonymous, really.
Yeah. I'll be interested to hear what Rocky, Crappy, and Brad have to say, because
My turn. Okay, yeah. So this is Living Alone. I think it's a beautiful song to wrap up the album. The mood on the song and the feeling is really nice. It's not one of Mayall's great classics. It's if I was playing the album, I would certainly want to hear it all the way through to that. Sure. It's very nice. But it's not something I would seek out and go, gee, I feel like listening to that. I certainly might say, gee, I feel like playing this, but that would never come in my mind to enter that on YouTube and play it. I'd give it an 8. And but part of that 8 is it really fits very nicely as it ends the album, and because there's some really blasting kind of guitar work on the Stumble and Supernatural, and this really is very soothing blues tune as it goes out. So yeah, I liked it a lot, but 8.0. Yeah.
Oh, look, for me, it's some interesting sort of guitar tones on it. Little slide work there. Is that John Mayall playing that?
Yeah. Petergreen's not on it.
It's not. Yeah, I put some nice slide work that's pretty cool, bluesy vibe. It's very understated in a way, but like in a cool way. I think it's deliberately understated. Harmonica's cool, and I thought it was a reasonable way to end the album. I think maybe a stronger song to finish the album, but sometimes albums finish on a softer note or a lesser. Should it be on the album in that position? Yes, I think it fits. It's okay. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Never a skip. So, guys, I think we're all the way through it.
Oh look! Somebody's done a vote in the chat. Very posh. Look at that. Oh. Survey. Our survey says.
Crappy, we're asking people if they want you to come back and do another show with us before the end of the year. Really, really humbled and really appreciate the fact that you've jumped in and offered us some insight and some opinions on a great album. I think you've enhanced the show with this album, and the fact that you wanted to come on and do this album with us and back it up with some solid experience and some good insight and input is a credit to what we're trying to do here. And I mean this humbly, because what we do as fans is, we're just getting together and we're talking about a great musical legacy, which gives us a lot of pleasure. And we're just offering a little bit of insight, and the fact that you've contributed to it is fantastic. So if you ever want to come back and do another show with us before the end of the year, I'm sure my co-hosts would agree. You're more than welcome.
Well, thank you very much. That's really nice to hear. Let me go fourth and put Brad ahead of me if we do another show together. I'll go fourth and he can be second or third. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I was actually going to say, I think what we should do, and we can maybe discuss this later, is let Crappy Luxury pick an album and he can lead it.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes. Yeah.
The
I'll go second.
what happened was when I saw the first show, I guess it was 4 or 5 months ago with the Godfrey Townsend show. Every song that he was talking about is one of my favorites, and he, this guy worked with Jack Bruce and John Entwistle.
Yes.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. Why would of all the people on the planet that Jack Bruce wants to pick as a guitarist, this is the guy he picks. I mean, it's just incredible. But I was asking questions on the chat column all through that show, like, did you ever meet Leslie West? And he had a story about that. He said, did you ever meet Robin Trower? And he had great stories about that and whatever. So, yeah.
He wants to come back. He's going to do another show at the beginning of the year with us. He's a good friend with Micheal also, who's been on a few shows with us too, Crappy, and he got us in touch with Godfrey. So we're very lucky there.
Oh, that was great.
Very humbled, and we keep in touch with him, and so he's going to get into the music scene because it's opening up and start doing a few gigs and stuff like that. So he's going to come back on with us in January. So we look forward
fantastic.
to that. And if you want to come on that show, you're more than welcome. Really appreciate it. I'm going to say thank you once again, Crappy, for jumping on with us. We've been going for 2.5 hours. It's fantastic. We've got some great people in the chat. I'm going to ask my other co-hosts and yourself, Crappy, to give some final words. And Brad, if you want to go through and do the final shout out to all the cats and kittens in the chat, bro, I'd be grateful. Thank you for hanging out with us. Share our channel. We love seeing you guys here with us. Thank you. Rock Professor.
Yes. We're up to 761 subscribers now. It's fantastic. Yeah. Yes, thanks to everyone for joining yet again. Really enjoyed it, and thanks to Crappy for guest appearance. And yes, and come back and lean on an album. That would be great, Crappy.
Wow. Yeah.
Really good. Yeah. And if it's something I don't know, even so much the better.
Well, yeah. I mean, you mentioned that Keith Hartley album. I know his name, but I don't know anything about him at all. And if you wouldn't mind a really idiotic question in England, since I have an Englishman here. Is Keith a nickname for Keith?
Yes.
Because I've heard
absolutely.
Keith Richards sometimes called Keith, and
Keith.
here
That's
we
right.
don't know what the hell that means, Keith. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
Keith is just another spelling, another way of saying Keith.
Right. Okay. Right. Great. Yeah, it's fantastic to be on the show because I was always wanting to, be part of it just from listening to you guys do the previous shows. And
Yeah.
so thanks for letting me get on here, and I'll keep watching. And if anybody's out there who came from my channel, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. It really deserves it. So, okay.
Well, look, Crappy.
Brad, sorry to interrupt, bro. And what I'll do is I'll get your channel now, and I'll throw it in the chat, and we'll get our watchers to subscribe to your channel now while we're doing this. So,
Okay. Crappy Luxury is the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Brad.
That's fine, mate. No problem at all. I just want to thank you personally, like on behalf of myself and my other two co-hosts for joining us, Crappy Luxury. We really enjoyed that. Your insight was amazing. So thank you so much, and definitely welcome back anytime at all.
Yeah. Shall I do a shout out to the people in the chat? Just say good night.
We'll get Brad to do it, eh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go through it. So yeah, I was just going to say thank you, Crappy, anyway, for joining us, mate, and we look forward to.
Well, yeah, it's a great channel. We got a Kiwi, an Aussie, an Englishman, and an American. It's terrific.
Yeah, and we're talking about British Electric Blues.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you everyone in the chats. We've got John, our good friend John, who does all the artwork and he just does it, himself. He's a big part of the show now already. So thank you so much. He just automatically designated himself as the guy who does all the sharing artwork. So thank you so much. Obviously, we've got Sonia in the chat. Ellen, thank you so much. We've got Christine, thank you. Teresa, Great Vanzini. We've got Hugh, thank you, Hugh. We've got, going back to Mosho, is it Mosh? M-O-S-H.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've some ratbag called Simon Williams. So yeah, that's a ratbag there. We don't like to highlight him much. Yeah, but thank you, Ambient Guitars UK. Thank you so much. We've got who else have we got here? We've got Kenneth K. Thank you so much. Jazz Thunder 50. Thank you. I said thank you to Hugh, but thank you again. Just going up. I think I may have covered everyone in Johnny Heartbreaker. Thank you, Johnny. Awesome. And G. Bucknoff, thank you so much. Michael, our good friend Michael, also, thank you so much for joining us. And I know it was late when you jumped in. I hope you're tucked away in bed and asleep by now. If you're not, you're a naughty boy. All right. I think Deja Voodoo. I'm not sure if I mentioned you. There's a few more in the chat, but that's as far back as my chat will go. And thank you so much to everyone who joined us and watches this back. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Where we grow organically, we don't do any other sort of advertising or anything. We're just growing organically, and it's through you guys. So thank you so much for sharing our channel, because I know a few people have been doing that, and we really appreciate it. But we need you to keep doing it so we keep growing. All right. So that's your task for today. We just need you to go and share our channel. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine. You're welcome here anytime. It's no problem. No problem.
Cocktail, Christine.
Glad to keep you company.
Yeah.
We're out of here, guys. Are we out of here?
Yeah,
we are.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, all. Have a good week.
Stick around.
One more thing. Who's picking the next album?
I think it's Brad's.
Interesting.
Your turn,
Brad. Okay, so don't forget, if you guys want to find out what the album is, you've got to go to Brad's Instagram, and he's going to release it as a story for you guys to do the homework in preparation for the British Electric Blues show. Oh, my Lord. Okay, now we can say goodbye.
Yeah. See you guys.
Cool.
Yeah,
Take care.
bye
See you
all.
next week, guys. Bye.
Oh, where are we?
Play the theme
guys-
tune.
Just keep waving. Come on.
Keep waving. Crappy,
Keep
keep waving.
Oh, okay. Right.
Keep waving. There's Brad there. There's his Instagram. Keep waving.
Actually, one hand. Bye.
Keep waving. Oh. Where is it? There.
Ah,
I better do this before I get the sack. See you guys later.
Come on.
production.